Hi everyone! Today we are going to talk about yoga mats. If you are looking for a yoga mat, you may get totally overwhelmed by the number of choices that you have available. It's really great that there are so many different options, but they can get very confusing and make it really hard to choose the right yoga mat. So I'm going to break down some of the different choices that you have, give you some pros and cons, and hopefully help you narrow your search so you can find that perfect yoga mat for your practice. So the first thing to consider when purchasing a yoga mat is your budget. Yoga mats can be anywhere from $15 to $150. Now I know that sounds extreme, I agree, but that's the reality. So a lot of yoga mats that you'll see that would be perfect for everyday use, probably going to be somewhere in the $30 range. You can find a great yoga mat. If you're looking for something and more of an upgrade, higher quality, you may want to spend a little bit more money, but you can really find great yoga mats at all different prices. So just to give you an idea, the yoga mat that I use every day, this is a Jade Harmony mat. It cost me about $80. That was a lot of money to spend on a yoga mat, but I do this every day. I spend a lot of time on my mat, so it was worth the investment. These other two mats that I have here, this light purple one and this blue one, both fantastic mats. They each cost me about $30. So you have some options there. Just consider what you want to spend because that will really help narrow the scope. You may want to just say no to anything beyond $100, maybe beyond $50 even, maybe even beyond $30. The next thing you want to consider is the material. So there's two types of material that you'll typically see yoga mats are made from. PVC is what we most commonly see. And that's these two mats here, the blue one and the light purple one. The purple one that I'm sitting on that I use every day is natural rubber. One is not better than the other, it's just a matter of preference. I really prefer the natural rubber, but I have these two PVC mats that work great and I really appreciate both of them. One thing that you may want to consider though is that whatever mat you choose, that the company that's made them has eco-friendly practices. So just something to consider. And regardless of what material you get, when you bring your new yoga mat home, make sure that you unroll it and let it air out because it will probably have a little bit of a smell, and it's not harmful. It's totally natural. The PVC has a little bit of like a chemically smell. The natural rubber has a strong rubber smell. It usually takes a few days for it to go away. So don't be alarmed if your new yoga mat smells. It will go away. The next thing we're going to talk about is mat thickness. So this is a really big decision for most people that are looking for a yoga mat. A traditional yoga mat, like the one that I'm sitting on right here, is about 5 millimeters. The one here, this light purple, is 4 millimeters, and this blue one is 6 millimeters. They go down to about 2 millimeters. That's typically going to be like your travel yoga mats. Probably not great for every day because they're going to be so thin that they're going to be really, really hard on your body. Think about like practicing on like a hardwood floor. You know, you wouldn't want to do that every day. If you're traveling, fine, but not for your everyday practice. Now the thicker mats, a lot of people love the thicker mats and the extra padding that they give. And you wouldn't think like, okay, you know, 5 millimeters to 6 millimeters, that's not going to make much of a difference. It really does. In fact, thicker yoga mats can go up to about 8 millimeters. And again, those are just going to offer some more padding, some more cushioning. They're really great if you have any joint issues. They're really soft on the knees. They're great yoga mats to practice on. They really do add a lot of comfort. The one thing to consider, if there is a drawback to having a thicker mat, is that any pose where you're balancing or you're trying to really focus on stability, you may feel a little bit unstable because you're on a softer surface, right? So it's just a little bit squishier. Most people get used to it, you just adjust, but that's just something to be mindful of. I use the 5mm mat for my everyday practice. If I need a little extra padding, I just fold my mat over. I just double it up. You can also stack mats on top of each other if you need a little extra support, or you can always use a blanket or a towel to add a little bit more thickness. So you have some options there with the thickness of your mat. When it comes to size, a typical yoga mat is 68 inches long by 24 inches wide. And that works for most people, but if you're super tall, you have really long legs, you may want to consider a larger mat. And the larger mats, they can be anywhere from 78 inches long to 84 inches long. Really just depends on the length that you're looking for. Usually those mats, they'll add a couple of inches width as well. So that's just something to consider. Again, this is if you're like well over 6 feet is when you'll probably want to consider a longer mat. If you find yourself frequently stepping off a regular size mat because your stance is just so wide, that's when you want to look for something that's going to be a little bit longer. They do make kids yoga mats that are a little bit smaller than the standard size. It's always great to introduce kids to yoga. One thing I will say, you may want to consider just getting a regular size yoga mat because they will grow into it. If you use a larger mat, it's not going to hurt anything, right? But once a mat is too small for you, then you can't really use it anymore. So just something to consider, although the kids' yoga mats have really, really cute prints, so you just have to kind of weigh that out, right? But in the long run, it may be a better value to just get a regular size mat. All right, so that is size. Texture is next. So you probably can't see it on the camera, but most yoga mats have these little bumps on them. They're very textured, right? So this one too has these bumps. And what the bumps do is they provide some support so that you don't slip. They provide some traction. Now the material also provides that. The PVC is nice and sticky. This really bothers some people, right? If you're super sensitive to textures and you're laying in Shavasana and you're really disturbed by the bumpy texture of a yoga mat, you may want to consider getting a totally smooth mat. And they do make mats that are just smooth surface. And what they do is with the material, they make sure that they still have a good amount of stick to them so you're not slipping and sliding everywhere. Texture honestly doesn't bother me, but again, everybody is different and it's your yoga mat. You get to pick what you want. The natural rubber mats are a little bit smoother, but they're just naturally, they have a little bit of a rougher texture, but without the intentional bumps that like the PVC mats have. So again, something to consider there. And finally, and this part is the most fun, is style. Your yoga mat can be an expression of your personality. You can pick any color or design that you love. I love purple, it's my favorite color, so my everyday mat is this purple mat. Before I got this mat, I used this one for my daily practice. I love the chakra pattern on it. There's some really, really gorgeous yoga mats out there. So you can have a lot of fun with, picking out colors and design styles that, really speak to you. So that's pretty much it when it comes to like the big things that you'll be looking for when you go to purchase your yoga mat. Where to get them? You can go directly to the retailer, right? So these two mats here are Gaiam. This one's a Jade yoga mat. There are other yoga mat companies that are fantastic that you can certainly just go directly to them. Any of the big box stores or online retailers will have yoga mats as well. I've actually found them on sale at like TJ Maxx and Home Goods and Marshalls, typically around this time of year and into early January. It's, I guess, like a fitness resolution thing. They usually have a display of yoga mats and props, and they're usually on sale. So just some things to consider, but you can really, there's so many places you can get your yoga mat, or you can just get it online, and it's easier to be able to browse the different things that you're looking for. All right, my friends, so that's all for yoga mats today. In another video, we'll talk about how to take care of your yoga mat, how to clean it, when to replace it, and all that fun stuff. But in the meantime, happy shopping if you are looking for a yoga mat, and we'll see you next time. If you like this video, go ahead and give us a like and subscribe. We would love to have some subscribers. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.